Usually when we talk about racism in the Republican Party, it has to do with things like deleting the history of Jackie Robinson, deleting the history of Harriet Tubman, or deciding that the Tuskegee Airmen should be deleted, or maybe just defunding the African American Museum. The list kind of goes on and on and on, but I am not here to talk about why they are racist. I am here to talk about some other things as it relates to immigration. So let's get to that. You know, it's interesting because we got all these theories. I don't know why we put up with getting data and facts if we just gonna sit here and talk about how we feel. So, you know, maybe we can inject some facts into these feelings. I'm not really sure. But as somebody who has actually practiced criminal defense, I don't know if there's anybody else in here who has, I can tell you that I have handled thousands of cases, not hundreds of cases, thousands on the state level in Texas, Arkansas, and the federal level. And I can tell you that, you know what? If I had to look at the vast majority of the cases that I was representing criminal defendants on, the vast majority of them just didn't happen to be immigrants. These are just the facts of my experience, and maybe the immigrants went to somebody else. I don't know, but I can tell you in my actual experience in real life, in reality, and not in this fallacy world that y'all are making up where you hate on everybody. So my Republican colleagues are here using today to continue.
It is very easy to get under Donald Trump's skin, to get in his head, to make him rage. But it takes a special talent to live in his head, to occupy permanent space, forever making him freak out. And that is something that, clearly, Jasmine Crockett has been able to accomplish with her blistering takedowns of Donald Trump and MAGA at large. And we saw that last night at a speech that Donald Trump gave to the NRCC, in which he targeted Jasmine Crockett, directly after weeks of threatening her with legal retribution. And Jasmine Crockett, as you can expect, was quick to respond before Congress today, taking another shot at Donald Trump. And I think hers landed a lot better. We're going to get into it all, but before we do, if I could quickly ask you to leave a like on this video, and if you haven't already, and you enjoy our channel, to hit that subscribe button. It goes a long way, and it really does mean a lot to me. Now, before we get into this incredible takedown from Jasmine Crockett, of course, we need, unfortunately, the context to Trump in this clip right here.
Back, and you know, I said before, the Democrats have taken a lot of beatings. They have lost their confidence. They've gone crazy. They've gone crazy. How about this new one they have? Their new star, Crockett. How about her? Is that real? Are they serious?
You know, for how unhappy he is with Jasmine Crockett making him look like the fool he is, it's nice that he at least admitted that she's a star. He said, you know, the Democrats got this. They've got this new person. We do have this rising star in our party. At least Donald Trump can at least acknowledge the raw political talent of Jasmine Crockett. And in the just devastating takedowns that she has been delivering of him and his party, and their ridiculous hypocrisy, his criminality all the time. That is exactly what we saw, Jasmine Crockett. And it was so perfect. We're going to have to take a look.
I just want to clarify that usually when we talk about racism in the Republican Party, it has to do with things like deleting the history of Jackie Robinson, deleting the history of Harriet Tubman, or deciding that the Tuskegee Airmen should be deleted, or maybe just defunding the African American Museum. The list kind of goes on and on and on, but I am not here to talk about why they are racist. I am here to talk about some other things as it relates to immigration. So let's get to that. You know, it's interesting because we got all these theories. I don't know why we put up with getting data and facts if we just gonna sit here and talk about how we feel. So, you know, maybe we can inject some facts into these feelings. I'm not really sure. But as somebody who has actually practiced criminal defense, I don't know if there's anybody else in here who has, I can tell you that I have handled thousands of cases, not hundreds of cases, thousands on the state level in Texas, Arkansas, and the federal level. And I can tell you that, you know what? If I had to look at the vast majority of the cases that I was representing criminal defendants on, the vast majority of them just didn't happen to be immigrants. These are just the facts of my experience, and maybe the immigrants went to somebody else. I don't know, but I can tell you in my actual experience, in real life, in reality, and not in this fallacy world that y'all are making up where you hate on everybody. So my Republican colleagues are here using today to continue pushing this false narrative of sanctuary cities harboring criminals. Yet right here in DC, we have a 34-count felon being harbored in the White House. The hypocrisy coming from your side of the aisle over concerns regarding lawlessness is outrageous. Right now, House Republicans are conducting town halls with constituents lying about our legal system. That, quote, there is no due process if you come here illegally because you violated the law. That immigrants, quote, are not entitled to due process. Nowhere in the Constitution does it say that. We all want to live in a country where we respect the law. So I'm a bit surprised that Republicans aren't up in arms with Trump detaining and deporting U.S. citizens and people who are lawfully present here in the United States. What Trump and ICE are doing is a disgrace, and it's all being done without respect for our laws. For example, Mr. Neri Alvarado, a Dallas-based baker, was arrested and deported to El Salvador prison for having an autism awareness tattoo in honor of his 15-year-old autistic brother. This was done despite never having been to El Salvador, despite having no gang affiliation, and despite having no organized crime connection. He was deported because ICE agents have been detaining, quote, all Venezuelans with tattoos. And to be clear, this type of racial profiling isn't just a one-off. In fact, the ACLU, using DHS's own data, mind you, found that at least 65% of the states and local agencies voluntarily working with ICE have records of racial profiling and civil rights violations. Mr. Franklin, first of all, and Sheriff, let me thank you for your service too, because I appreciate law enforcement. I just want to put that out there. But Mr. Franklin, Major Franklin, you're a decorated law enforcement officer. Yes or no, in your experience, does racially profiling people make communities safer?
No.
And yes or no, does ICE forcing state or local law enforcement to detain people make communities safer?
No.
You know, it's interesting because we've already, and we're gonna, do Groundhog's Day a couple of times, seemingly here. Actually, let me give you the facts real quick before I go to that. In fact, a report for the American Immigration Council found that cities that didn't enforce ICE detainers have 35.5% lower crime rates, 2.3% lower poverty rates, and relied less on public assistance, including 4.9% less for children under 18. And I do want to be clear right now, ICE is trying to work with the IRS because we actually take in billions of dollars because of immigrants in this country, and now they're gonna try to get them out. And I'm gonna tell you that the biggest issue that we have, I really don't think this should be a partisan issue, so I'm going to agree with my Republican colleagues. I think that we all should want to be safe in our communities. The problem that we have is that we have an incompetent administration, that everything that they touch turns to shit. Because what they do is they take a wide sweeping brush and they have decided that the enemy is now going to be immigrants instead of taking a scalpel. That's all we're asking, is to be exact in what you're doing instead of taking a sledgehammer to everything. Thank you, and I will yield.
Gotta clap it up. She's just so good at it. Of course she gets under their skin. Of course she upsets them. She's the best at this. Of course Donald Trump is gonna lash out. Of course he is going to get furious. And it just goes to show, something that we talked about a lot on the campaign trail, that when you're getting under his skin, that you're getting him off message. And honestly, at this point, I don't even know if we should get Donald Trump off message. Because the message that he is on is talking about crashing our economy. So really, anything you get him to say at this point is bound to backfire. But Jasmine Crockett is doing the work, and it's clear this is impacting them. They wouldn't be attacking her. And we see this from Fox unless they thought she was having success, and she is. That's why they're going after her, because her message breaks through. She is unapologetic about it. And we need more people showing the feelings in Congress that we have. It's why we elected you, because we want you to fight back. And we saw more of that from another excellent member of Congress. Someone that we've had on this show a couple of times. Robert Garcia, and a takedown at Doge right here.
Hearing where House Republicans are trying to help Elon Musk get cover for looting our federal government. Doge, and so far this committee, has not been about efficiency or better services. It's been an attack on programs that we rely on, from public health to Medicaid to the Department of Education, and of course now to office space. And we all know that Elon Musk and Donald Trump are attacking all the safeguards designed to make sure they just can't sell our government assets to their own companies, but they can also sell them to their friends. Our committee is ignoring the biggest threat from the Trump administration so far, and that is a horrific economic plan, Maganomics. Now, Mr. Kendall, we've been hearing testimony complaining that the federal government spent $4.6 billion on furniture since 2021. Do you know how much the U.S. businesses will pay every year in tariffs under Donald Trump's plan? Any idea?
No, sir, I do not.
Okay, well, the U.S. businesses will be paying $654 billion a year, and that number will rise. And that's just in 1 year. That number, of course, is enormously much larger than anything that we ever spend in furniture. We're looking at the biggest tax increase in over 50 years. Now, Mr. Kendall, the total value of all property held by the federal government is about $330 billion, as stated. Is that correct?
I have no basis to challenge that number.
Okay, great. So do you know how much wealth has been wiped out from the stock market in just 2 days after Donald Trump's tariff announcement? Any idea, Mr. Kendall?
It's in the trillions, but I don't know the
Around
number.
$6.6 trillion. So I want to make sure what people should be understanding here. Last week, we had the largest 2-day stock market fall in history. We're talking about furniture and office space while people are losing their retirement accounts, while the stock market is crashing, while Medicaid is under attack, while healthcare costs are going up. We know that retirement accounts are being wiped out right now as we are holding this hearing. Companies, many of them, are no longer able to invest. People are losing their jobs. And we're here talking about furniture while Donald Trump is destroying the economy. We also know that predicting a recession, which many are now doing, is looking more and more likely, which we hope, of course, doesn't actually happen. And while all this was happening and Donald Trump was imposing his tariffs plan, and the prices of almost everything, groceries, housing, clothing, computers, can be expected to go up, Donald Trump, of course, the next day left to go play golf. Now, Mr. Kendall, were you aware that as the markets were crashing, Donald Trump the next day went out to play a few rounds of golf?
I do read the paper, so I did know that.
And perhaps maybe instead he should have been working with world leaders or allies to actually work on the tariff crisis. But instead, of course, he was, of course, on the front page of the Wall Street Journal, which is a very conservative paper, as we know. I think it's clear that Donald Trump could care less about the harm he's doing, doesn't care about American workers or the community. And unfortunately, Republicans in Congress want to debate office space and furniture while the president torches our own American economy and the global economy. We have businesses right now, back in my district and across the country, that are getting hammered and suffering and firing employees. But instead, we're continuing to have these really unfortunate, I think, hearings. It's crazy, it's cowardly. We should stop the tariffs now. And with that, I yield back.
Of course, we need to be centering the discussion around the way that Donald Trump and Elon Musk and Doge have been tanking our economy. This is what we need to focus on right now. We cannot get distracted. This is the message that we have to push forward with. And Raphael Warnock did a great job hammering home that as well in this clip right here.
Make no mistake, tariffs will only raise costs and make life harder for middle-class people and for hardworking families. Ironically, the president who ran on a platform to lower people's costs is taxing hardworking people, middle-class people, the working poor, while at the same time they are laser focused on giving a tax cut to the richest of the rich. I think that's wrong-headed. I think it's Robin Hood in reverse. They're stealing from the poor in order to give to the rich. And the people of Georgia and all across our country deserve better.
They are destroying the economy with their stupidity and incompetence. It's what we need to be talking about all the time, all of the time. And it's what we're going to be talking about every single day on this show. And if you want to support that, as always, you can hit that subscribe button, leave a like on this video, and if you stuck around to the end, you can drop a blue heart in the comments. And until next time, I'll see you.